we shall also interact in the days to come throughout this semester. So welcome once again. I hope you have been also exposed to the module that we are using. And I just want to highlight the concepts we're going to cover as they appear in our course outline. We are going to go through the unit EPM1210, which is Introduction to Education 2. That means it's a continuation with what you have already covered under Introduction to Education 1. Let me share the screen so that you can also be able to follow what the document I'm using. Yeah, so that is that we have read through Introduction to Education 1, and so this is a continuation about the concepts of education and the current issues in teaching profession and education in Kenya. So the objectives of this unit is that by the end of it, you students should be able to define various concepts of education, including the profession, education, and systems of education. You should be able to concepts of planning and economics of education, evaluate contemporary issues in management of education in Kenya, also be able to define and understand, apply concepts in economics, planning, economics of education, and educational planning. So the first topic will be to introduce ourselves the concepts of education. We'll have some terms to define education that are related, and the issues of systems of education. We'll look at the aspects of the profession, the concept of profession, and its characteristics and the role of a teacher. Then we'll look at the second topic, will be Introduction to Educational Planning and Economics of Education.
Doctor, you don't know if you can maybe tell that person maybe who's knocking the door to hold on.
Yeah, let me request, please. Is in the next room, so you'll allow it.
Yes, just request him that you are teaching a large class and it's not appropriate for him to make those noise. Doctor, at least now it's at least better. You can continue. Doc, you can continue now. It's okay. You are muted. You are muted. You can unmute. Doctor, you are muted. Doctor, you can continue now. Okay, you can unmute and continue kindly.
Okay, I hope we can now progress.
It's now okay. You can continue, Doctor.
All right. So I was sharing about what we are going through in the course of this unit. The first topic will just be introduction to this unit, dealing with the concepts of education, the concept of profession, and the role of a teacher as a professional. Then we'll look at the introduction, the second topic about educational planning, economics of education. We'll go through the various concepts of education planning and economics of education. We'll have a study of the approaches to educational planning, cost-benefit analysis. We'll look at stages in educational planning. We'll look at problems in educational planning, types of costs that are incurred in education, then the concept of demand and supply in education. In the third topic, we'll look at systems of education in Kenya through the preschool, university, and that is the levels that we go through in the education system in Kenya. Then the fourth topic is about management, structure of education in Kenya. We'll go through the various aspects of the institutions in the Ministry of Education, the different semi-autonomous institutions within the Ministry of Education. Then we look at the introduction to additional educational institutions, like the Kenya Institute of Education, now called Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, the Kenya National Examinations Council, Kenya Institute of Special Education, Teacher Service Education, Jomo Kenyatta Foundation. They have a link to education. Also, other professional institutions like the teachers' unions, NAT, KUPPET, KEPSHA, and so forth. Then we'll highlight the education commissions and their roles, right from the first commission by Ominde to the latest that introduced the competency-based education. Then we'll go through the current practices and issues of management of education in Kenya, matters that are contemporary, emerging issues like Vision 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals, aspects of financing of education, issues to do with globalization, privatization of education, gender and equity in education, HIV and AIDS. Then those are aspects that we shall engage with that will give us good content that will make us professional teachers by the end of this unit. So we want to progress. I'll be sharing the notes that we are using, but again, you still have the module. They're just extracts from the same, so that we can highlight key areas of emphasis. So let me go straight to the first topic of this unit. Is about the introduction and basically dealing with the concepts, terms, and concepts that are related to the introduction to education 2. First, what is education? Education is defined variously, but we have standard definition that embraces the totality or holistic development of human beings, and that is what we are going to center our understanding of education on. So education is the total process of human learning by which knowledge is imparted, faculties trained, and skills developed in the society. So it is intended to increase, adjust, and enrich oneself and the society. So education is to make people enrich their knowledge, their skills, and positive attitudes for the development of themselves and their society. Education is the holistic development which molds an individual towards desirable goals through personal awakening. It involves acquisition of education, which can be done through formal, informal, and informal education. Again, I'm disrupted. You'll excuse a little so that probably there's a change of manpower. I talked to one person, the manager has left. They may not be informed. So hold on a little again.
Dr. Maybe if it's taking long, we can just adapt with the noise. Dr. Mabele, if maybe the fundi is taking long, we can just adapt with the noise because of time. Just unmute and continue. Dr. Mabele, are you there? Are you still there?
Okay. There was a disturbance, but I think we can now proceed. We were looking at the definitions. We had given a definition of education as a total process of human learning, where knowledge is imparted, faculty is trained, and skills developed in society to help people to increase, adjust, and enrich themselves and their society. So it is a holistic development that molds an individual for desirable goals through personal awakening. This acquisition of education can be done through formal, informal, and informal approaches, which we shall also cover in a few minutes. So what is a school? This is another important concept. It looks obvious, but then we have to understand if we are to be able to give our services properly in a school system. A school can be defined as an institution designed for teaching of students under the direction of teachers. Most countries have systems of formal education, which is commonly compulsory. So formal education happens mostly in school systems. In these systems, students progress through a series of schools. The names for these schools vary by country, but generally they include primary school for the young children and secondary school for teenagers who have gone through the primary level education. Then we also have tertiary institutions, including universities, where you are now in that level. Then we have the concept of a teacher. Who or what is a teacher? A teacher can be defined as a person who provides education to students. He's a person whose occupation is teaching others or helping others learn new things. So a teacher in the contemporary world facilitates learning to happen. And so the teacher's role is mainly to facilitate education of students to occur. The role of a teacher is often formal and ongoing, carrying out at a school or other places of formal education. So what is learning? Learning is the act of acquiring new or modifying and reinforcing existing knowledge, behaviors, skills, values, or preferences, and may involve synthesizing different types of information. It is measurable and relatively permanent change in behavior through experience, instruction, or study. So learning is about change in behavior. Okay. That is the challenge. Yeah, there was a challenge, but the lecture has not bounced. We are back. Let's proceed. So hold on. So we are looking at the concept of learning, where we say it's about acquisition of new or modifying and reinforcing existing knowledge, behavior, skills, values, or preferences, which may involve synthesizing different types of information. Learning is measurable and relatively permanent change in behavior through experience, instruction, or study. So you can measure whether learning has taken place through change of behavior. So if there is change in observable behavior, then it is a testament of learning that has taken place. Whereas individual learning is selective, group learning is essentially political. Its outcomes depend largely on power playing in the group. So human learning may occur as part of education, personal development, schooling, or training. It may be goal-oriented and may be aided by motivation. So we move on to look at the concept of training. Training is an organized activity aimed at imparting information or instructions to improve the recipient's performance or to help him or her attain a required level of knowledge or skill. So training is limited to skill acquisition so that you can train somebody just to acquire a specific skill for use. So it is going to impart it or help a person to attain a certain level, or either one can acquire or improve the skill that one is in possession. Training is aimed at developing in oneself skills and knowledge which relate to specific useful competencies. So training has specific goals of improving one's capability, capacity, productivity, and performance. Then there is structure. What is structure? It is the basic framework which the executive decision-making behavior occurs. It is through a framework of administering certain decisions. Like in a school system, we have a structure of leadership which runs from the teachers to the administrators at the lower level to the top level of administration, the principal and the board of management. If you look at the education system, for example, in Kenya, we have the Ministry of Education with their structure running from the cabinet secretary downwards to the institutional management at the school level. So at the top, you'll find you have the cabinet secretary for education. You have down, you move to the principal secretary of education. We have the different departments within the same Ministry of Education, with the led by the directors of education. Below them, we have the different regions, regional directors of education. We have the county directors of education below them, sub-county directors of education, all down to the lower level at the school level. And they therefore it is structured as a basic framework through which decisions are made. And that allows us to look at the second aspect of our lecture today on system of education. What is a system? A system is a set of interrelated and interdependent parts arranged in a manner that produces a unified whole, or a set of interrelated parts that operate as a whole in pursuit of common goals. So you'll find that we have, when we talk about a system, it means there are some interrelated parts, and these connect to form a whole, a compact whole. It is also described as a set of objects which works in relation to produce a complete. There are three types of education, namely formal education, non-formal education, then we have informal education. So these are the aspects of education that form the system of education. The types of education can be explained in details, beginning with the formal education. Formal education is where learning takes place in established institutions like schools. Learning is structured by means of a syllabus and timetables. So you find that in formal education, we have established institutions of learning. We have established curricula where the knowledge is to be drawn from and utilized for learning. Then we have strict timetables to be followed. So it is in a controlled system of learning. Then teaching is provided carefully supervised, and achievement of learners is recognized through award of certificates. In Kenya, formal education is offered by both private and public institutions. This is realized through institutions like schools, colleges, and universities, which have regular lessons, systematically organized, and have well-defined objectives to be achieved. There is a laid down syllabus and a timetable to be followed. There is an external administrative organ which carefully supervises the standards and the quality that need to be met. These organs include the quality assurance at the lower levels of education. We have the quality assurance that inspects the quality of education at secondary and primary levels. Then at the university, we have the Commission of University Education, which supervises standards and quality of education in the university. So what are the characteristics of formal education? Just to highlight what we have mentioned, the class has similar learners in terms of age, entry behavior, and the same subject teacher daily. So you find that the teacher will be handling the same concepts or then classroom activities have set time frames. We have a strict timetable where learning is organized. Certain hours, 10 minutes, people come for this class, then another lesson at a different time. Teachers are trained in specific knowledge like education philosophy, effective teaching strategies, classroom management, and subject content. Teachers have specific educational objectives and are bound to a specific curriculum activity. Okay, let's proceed. Let's proceed. So we're saying the characteristics of formal education include certificates being issued at the end of the program, and that is what is evidence of having gone through a certain formal education program. At the end of your 4-year program here, you are expected to demonstrate that by acquiring a degree certificate. There is a structured program, and that is what we are saying. Part of is an organized program where learning is structured, and we have planned for activities that are offered. It's offered in the government defined and approved institutions. So formal learning happens, or formal education happens in institutions that are approved by the government. They may be government institutions or private institutions, but are licensed by the government. So we move on to look at non-formal education. Non-formal education is any organized learning, sometimes semi-structured, which takes form of apprenticeship. It's consciously aimed at meeting specific learning needs of particular groups of children, youths, or adults in community. So the learning is structured, it is more flexible as to the places and methods of learning. This kind of learning stresses mastery of skills. Typically, this term is used to refer to adult literacy and the continuing education. It may include after-school programs like games, choir, debating, scouting, Christian union activities, wildlife clubs or unions. Those students who undergo, for those students in formal education systems, then these kind of activities constitute informal programs. It is called non-formal education because it is not compulsory. It does not lead to a formal certificate. You may be given a participation certificate, but that is not a formal certificate that is recognized by the government. It may or may not be state supported. In Kenya, there are a number of organizations concerned with non-formal education, which include youth clubs, youth polytechnics, adult education, community education, and so forth. The youth polytechnics are low-cost training centers found in rural areas to give primary school leavers skills, values, and better understanding. So the education that happens in such institutions constitute what we call non-formal education. Then we look at the third type is informal education. Informal education is totally unstructured. It has no specific teachers, time, or place in which it takes place. Learning is through participatory methods, African indigenous education, home, family, environmental, and peer experiences take the form of informal education. Examples include student and directed activities, engagement in several activities after classes like playing, chatting, singing, which can aid in learning various aspects of life. So that is part of the hidden curriculum that may occur even in formal education, such that we have students carrying out their own activities that they are not directed, and we find them therefore exploit their own interests, their own talents. Those who like speaking to people will engage in talks. Those who like to play will take their favorite sport and play. Those who enjoy singing, you will find them doing that. So this aids in various nurturing their various inner talents. Another example is friends chatting. Friends may encourage each other to talk on things they have experienced in their lives so that they can come up with possible ways of handling their problems. Parents advise. Parents guide their children on how to do several things for themselves, like tying a shoe, lace, brushing their teeth. That is part of informal education provided by parents at home. Involvement in youth and community organizations. The aim of such involvement is to facilitate and support and interdependence by encouraging their personal and social development and enabling them to have a voice in communities and society. To look at on different system of education involving the three main types of formal education, non-formal education, and informal education, where there were disruptions because of some work that was going on next door. I hope when you go through the notes and the module, you're able to grasp deeper what we have said. So I want us to move on to look at the concept of profession. The word profession comes from the word profess, which means to declare plainly as a fact that one has personal feelings, beliefs, and so forth. Profession is a form of employment. Profession is a form of employment, especially one that is respected in society as honorable and possibly is for an educated group of people who have undergone training in some special branch of knowledge. What are the characteristics of a profession? It has unique, definitive, and essential service, social service. So a profession provides an essential service to the community, to the society, to the country. It must have a unique social service to perform. Professionals offer important services to the society, and as they earn their daily living but without placing much emphasis on monetary reward, so that the provision of the service is the motivation behind their actions, behind their daily work, but not the monetary gain that they get from that. So if you are a professional, then you are required to have more emphasis on the service and not the monetary gain that you get from that profession. The profession is driven by inner satisfaction. When you are a doctor and you treat somebody and they get better, they begin to positively contribute to the growth of the society. They are treated, they healed, they are happy. Then that provides satisfaction to a doctor. You are a teacher and you educate a student who was struggling, and because of personalized service, the student improves in grades, changes behavior, becomes a successful student, a successful person. Then that gives you, as a teacher, inner satisfaction, not the monetary gains. Another characteristic that profession emphasis is laid upon intellectual techniques in performing its services. A profession depends much upon the intellectual rather than the physical techniques in carrying out its work. The physical activities of a professional work are guided by a high level of intellectual input. So you find that professionals are guided by their intellect. Their services they provide are based on intellectual capacity, not physical activities. So you find that a lawyer uses, an economist uses their intellect, but a carpenter will use their physique to carry out work. A teacher will apply their intellect in their carrying out their work, but a butcher man will be able to apply the physique. So you find that kind of difference. A professional applies intellect in their service. It should have a long period of specialized training. Professionals take a longer period to train in a specialized manner for them to qualify in that area. Entry into the professions usually requires a long period of preparation under experts. It takes 4 years to train a teacher in this country. It takes 6 years to train a doctor. How long does it take to train a pharmacist? Long period of time. But non-professionals, it takes a short period of time. You might only need a year or two to get somebody, a year to get somebody trained in wiring to become an electrician. But you will need several years, 6 years, to have an architect. So profession takes longer period of preparation in a specialized training. It should have a broad range of autonomy for both the individual practitioners and the entire group. We find that professionals should have autonomy to the extent that they are free to exercise their own best judgments. A professional is always confronted with a wide variety of problems which require application of a high degree of intelligence and training. So one must be able to exercise the freedom of independent skills and judgments. So high level of autonomy is required for professionals. They make independent decisions, make independent judgments. And so you need to develop independence of decision making if you are to be a professional teacher. And acceptance by the practitioners of broad personal responsibilities for judgment made and acts performed within the scope of professional autonomy is a large measure of autonomy, implies a corresponding large measure of responsibility. So what we are saying here is professionals should be held accountable. They should be responsible for their actions so that if they act independently and make judgments based on their intellect, they should make decisions that they are ready to be held to account. So that if you make a diagnosis and a prescription of a certain drug to a patient as a doctor, you should be based on you should have independence of decision making and also be able to be held responsible in the event that decisions you made were not right and they harmed the patient instead of curing the patient. If you are an architect and you are supervising the building of a construction of a building and it collapses, as an architect, you should be held responsible personally. Even as a teacher in class, when you make certain decisions about a learner, you should be accountable for those decisions. And so it requires you to always act in a professional manner that does not harm any student. Emphasis on the service to be rendered rather than the economic gain. This is part of what we said earlier, that emphasis to a professional is on service delivery and not economic gain. So people in professions cannot withhold their labor and hold the employer to use their labor as a bargaining tool to the detriment of their clients. For example, people offering essential services like security are not required to go on strike. Doctors are not required to go on strike because that causes death, causes harm to the society. Professions are organized and controlled such that professional workers cannot avoid certain obligations. Economic gains come second to personal satisfaction in performance. A comprehensive self-governing organization of practitioners, groups as large as professions must have some kind of orderly procedure to set the standards for entry and exclusion from the profession, to promote high standards of practice, and to raise the social and economic status of the group. There should also be a code of ethics. A profession should have a code of ethics to guide the members on how to carry out professional practice. So a code of ethics is a solemn oath of allegiance to the dictates of professional practice. There are two main reasons for having a code of ethics. One is to protect profession from undue abuse by fraudulent people. There are people who become fraudsters and they engage in this professional service. And so a code of ethics is required so that it guides the practitioners and therefore weeds out those who do not subscribe to the code of ethics. Just look at how many people have opened shops as surveyors, and they're not trained surveyors. They are not educated surveyors. We have people masquerading as doctors, even carrying out surgery and causing harm. Just 2 weeks ago, we lost a patient to somebody who pretended to carry out dental surgery, and it caused harm to this person, and he lost his life. So there are so many quacks even in the construction sector. That's why they are building collapsing all over. Some people are not real practitioners. They are using forged documents to practice as lawyers, to practice as doctors, to practice as surveyors, and this is causing harm. So a code of ethics is supposed to be provided so that it can be used to weed out those fraudsters. It also provides protection against members who may misuse this profession. There are some people who may also lack the ethics. So the code of ethics provides a guidelines, a standard of ethical practice that all professions must subscribe to. So this provides commitment to the service, and the teachers too have a code of ethics that they should subscribe to. So related to the profession, there is another concept called semi-profession. I want to look at characteristics of a semi-profession. The characteristics of a semi-profession include shorter training period compared to other professions. In a semi-profession, the training is shorter than real professions. There is less specialized and less highly developed professional culture needed for professional practice. They identify more with employment agency than with their professional organization. So you find that semi-professions, they are identifying more with their employer, but not with their professional organization. Members are more subject to administrative supervision and control than professionals. So we find that because they are supervised by their administrators and not their professionals in the field, members are more accountable to their administrative superiors in terms of their duties than they are to their professional organizations. Lack of a well-defined code of ethics, which serves as a basis for guiding professional behavior and practice. And lastly, it is lower in occupational status. So the status is low. They are not as respected as other scholars, as other professionals. Then those are characteristics of a semi-profession. Let's look at teaching as a profession. Teaching is regarded as a job or a profession of a teacher. It is something that is taught, the ideas and beliefs that are taught by a person, religion, and so forth. We find that teaching is the activity of educating or instructing. Teaching should encompass both instructions in procedures, a process to guiding students to the information they need, and challenging them to their minds. So teaching is a professional human activity in which one creatively and imaginatively uses himself or herself and his or her knowledge to promote learning. That is according to Shiundu and Omulando. Teaching is considered as both an art and a science. As an art, it calls for inspiration, talent, and creativity, content, methodology, resources, evaluation, planning, and so forth. As a science, it requires to have knowledge and skills on how to teach, select, and apply correct formula for each class situation. So that is what we are saying. Teaching is regarded as both a science and art, because it requires creativity, reflection, thinking, invention, and so forth. And it's also a science because you need a skill, you need to use knowledge, select, apply, correct, and all of this that requires scientific approach. However, why is it regarded as a semi-profession? Because there is a debate, a challenge, and a debate that has not come to a conclusion on whether teaching should be classified as a profession or not. And some have continually placed teaching in the realm of a semi-profession. On the basis of the characteristics of a profession, you can judge if teaching is a profession or not. A semi-profession is an occupation which requires sophisticated knowledge and skills, but is not regarded as a true profession. Traditional examples of semi-professions include social work, librarianship, teaching, and nursing. They often have less clear-cut barriers to entry than traditional professions like law and medicine, because you have teachers with different levels of entry into the profession. We have teachers at a level of degree. We have teachers at the level of diploma. We have teachers at the level of B1. So who is a professional and who is not? Some have different levels of training. Those that degree are trained for 4 years. Those with diploma are trained for 3 years. Those certificates are trained for 2 years. And therefore, that failure to have clear requirements makes teaching a semi-professional activity. Often their practitioners lack degree of control over their own work and has been traditionally associated with professionals. You find that teachers, the way we said earlier about one characteristic of a semi-profession is that they are more associated and supervised by the administrators than other professionals. We find teachers are among those who are closely supervised by their administrators. And you'll find that some teachers, when the principal is not in school, they also disappear. They don't work. They wait. If the principal is in school, they are very busy, working very effectively. When he leaves, they also leave. That is no profession. Professionals are self-controlled. They have a degree of control over their own work. Even you'll find that teachers, even the curriculum they teach is prepared by a different organization, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, and teachers just given to implement. And they have little to do in terms of content selection, because the content has already been selected for them. Maybe they can only choose which method to apply to teach. The following characteristics, which are found within teaching, make it a semi-permanent association. Length of training is less than 5 years. That is what we said earlier. Teachers train for 2, others 3, others 4 years. Teaching is a mass occupation which employs a lot of people and deals with many clients. Like you find one class, you have over 70 students, and you are dealing with all these people at a time. So there's no professionalism that can be achieved in such a situation. Teachers are not fully autonomous. Decisions are made for them. I've already explained that. Teaching is unionized. A full-fledged profession should not be unionized. We have trade unions nowadays in teaching. They have been there since time immemorial, and that has taken out the professionalism. Although other major identified full professions like doctors nowadays, because of the struggle with the Kenyan economy, they also have unions. But teaching was the first to have union in this country. And even other countries, you find teachers have unions, but in other professions, because of well being rated, being well presented for their services, they do not have unions. Suggestions for improvement: what can be done to improve teaching to obtain professional status? The government should continue to improve the terms and conditions of service for teachers. Through research, there has been an increase in knowledge in the profession. This is, in turn, has increased professionalism and the higher requirements for university education. There are also suggestions that academic and professional training should be separated so as to improve the teaching profession. So that we also need to have continuous professional education apart from just academic training of teachers. There should be continuous professional education. It has also been suggested that selection of people for training in the profession should be done through interviews, so that only those qualified and deserving of teaching. Teachers should be given more say in both teaching materials and curriculum development. These are things that they are set for the curriculums developed by KICD. Teaching materials are also provided by KICD. Teachers may only have the decisions, independent decision on which methodology to apply during class. But again, even during supervision by assurance teams, they will want to correct and emphasize use this method above the others, favoring learner-centered approaches. The teacher's code of regulations should be strengthened and used appropriately. There should be a strong organization for teachers from preschool all the way to university level to avoid having many organizations representing them. The role of the teacher. Studies have tended to regard the following 5 areas. With the role of the teacher is diverse, and therefore we want to look at specific roles, but they fall into the following 5 areas. One is classroom planning and adaptation, classroom management, arrangement of instructional program, general school organization, and out-of-school activities. These include activities in the community. The specific roles of a teacher are therefore a resource provider, They help in providing and sharing instructional materials. Teachers acquire materials even for their colleagues. They might include websites, instructional materials, readings, or other resources to use with students. They might help also share such professional resources as articles, journals, books, lessons, or unit plans and assessment tools. Teachers are instructionalists, instructional specialists. They help to implement effective teaching strategies. This help might include ideas for differentiating instruction or planning lessons in partnership with the fellow teachers. They are curriculum specialists. They interpret curriculum. They also link various concepts or components of the curriculum and show how to use the curriculum in planning, instruction, and assessment. Curriculum specialists lead teachers to agree on standards, follow the adopted curriculum, use common pacing charts, and develop shared assessments. Classroom supporters. Classroom supporters work inside classrooms to help learners implement new ideas by demonstrating a lesson or teaching or observing and giving feedback. So you find that teachers also provide that support to fellow teachers, to also learners, so that they emphasize learning is effective. Learning facilitator, facilitating professional learning opportunities among students and staff members. When teachers learn with and from one another, they focus on what most directly improves student learning. Their professional learning becomes more relevant, focused on teachers' classroom work, and aligned to fill gaps in student learning. Such communities of learning can break the norms of isolation that are present in many schools today. A teacher is a mentor. Serving as a mentor for novice teachers is a common role for teachers. Mentors serve as role models, acclimatize new teachers to a school, advise new teachers about instruction, curriculum, procedure, practices, and even staff politics. Being a mentor takes a great deal of time and expertise. It makes a significant contribution to the development of a new professional. Catalyst for change. Teachers can also be catalysts for change. Visionaries who are never content with the status quo, but rather always looking for a better way. They are always in search for solutions to improve learning, to improve society. So teachers who take on the catalyst role feel secure in their own work and have a strong commitment to continual improvement. They pose questions which generate analysis of students' learning. So that is what we planned to cover today for introduction. I hope we have been able to follow and are able to go through again and internalize what we have studied today. So we can stop at that point and meet next week. Have a good evening and enjoy your weekend. Goodbye.